tó ẹ káàbọ̀ padà sórí ètò kò ní bàjẹ́ ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi èmi náà lólótù Toby. Today I'm going to be talking about data types. In the last video we discussed variables and I represented them as a container. A variable or a container can hold different types of objects. Data types are just a unique set of rules that are bound to the object that a variable is holding. They can also be unique sets of classifications. Now, tí mo bá fi juice sínú bottle, ẹ mọ̀ juice ẹ mo máa classify as liquid. In the same sense, if I have a water bottle, it is impossible for me to keep a pair of shoes which is solid inside that water bottle. This kind of logical rules also apply to variables in programming. Let's get into it. So I am in my Visual Studio Code environment and I've created a file named datatype.py. I have this code, data types. So data object can be represented in different ways in programming, more specifically Python. There are some data or some things that come as a text. We represent those things as string, str. String is just a fancy word for combination of characters. The data object that come as numerics, which are numbers, are represented by int, which is also integers. Integers are positive or negative whole numbers. Ẹ̀rìmàní kíní kan Tóbi ṣé int náà láṣà máa lò lójoojúmọ́ fún nọ́mbà tá a bá ní decimal ńkọ́? In a situation where you have decimal numbers, you represent those ones using float. So tí point bá ti wà ńbẹ̀, a máa lo float. There's sometimes that your data object, they come in a list. Let's say a list of numbers, a list of words, a list of anything. In that case, you use list in Python. This kind of data come in sequence. And there's some data objects that they are also a list, but they are immutable, meaning you cannot change those objects. If you know you have an object like a list, but you do not intend to change the element of that list, then you use Tupu. Some other times you might need a decision-making data. That kind is represented using true or false. So if your decision is true, you use true. If your decision is false, you use false. They are also called booleans. And there are some times that you just need to map data objects. When you're dealing with mapping objects, you use dict. So every dictionary data type has a key that is mapping to a value. So because of that, we say dictionary is a key value pair. So for now, let's see how these things are being done. So remember that in the last video, we had a variable called name that we assigned Jonathan to it. Something I might not have mentioned is that your variable name can be anything of your choosing. You can name your variable anything you like. Okay? So I'm representing this variable as Jonathan. I'm representing the name as name. Okay? And this is a data object. Okay? And this type of object is a string. It is a string because it is a combination of characters. And when you want to write anything that has to do with string in Python, you use this quote. You may use double quote or you use single quote. And a way to check a type of data in Python is doing a method called type. Then you put the name of the variable. When I run it, go to my terminal, I do my Python, the name of the file, data type.py. I could see here it's giving me a class string, meaning this type is a string. This type of name is a string. In the same case, my variable could refer to a string object, let's say London. So I can either use a double quote or a single quote. To check the type of this name, it still gives me a string. So that's how you represent a combination of characters. It could also be one word. It still gives me a string. If I wanted to represent a number, then I wouldn't be using a quote. I'll just write the number straight up. So to have a number will be 90. Remember, integers are positive or negative whole numbers. So 90 is a positive number. I can name my variable this. To see the type, to confirm that this type is an int, moment low method to get type. Then I put the name of the variable. So I want to print it out to the terminal. Print the type of this number. When I do this, I get int, which means this type of number is an integer. Integers could be positive, they could be negative. So if I do minus 90, the type should still give me int, as you can see. Okay. Then float. Float are decimal numbers. Okay, so 9.90 is a decimal number, but this would be float. So let's check the type of it. Can you see the type is a float because it has a decimal number in it. A list is a sequence of objects. Okay, in Python, let's say I want a list of number. You represent your list this way. You use the square bracket, and my list can take a variable number of length. It could be list of numbers 9, 12, 45, 67. This would be a list of numbers. To get the type, I'll do the type, then list of number. Can you see? This gives me a list. To print all the whatever I have assigned to this variable, in that case, I wouldn't have to be using type. I just do print, then the variable name. So this will give me whatever I have assigned into this variable. Let's see. Python data type.py. Can you see? It gives me whatever I have assigned. But to check the type of this container, the type of data it is holding, then I do type of list of number. The next one is the tuple. The tuple works like a list, but the thing is, you cannot change values in the tuple. When we get to that point of using tuple, I will show us what I mean. But just note in mind that tuple is represented using brackets, unlike list, which is square. So tuple can take any variable length of characters or numbers. It could be string. I could say 1, 2. I could say Busia. I could say John. I could also combine numbers with it. So your tuple can take a variable length of data object. So let's see the type of this variable of tuple. To see the type, I do that, then I run it. Can you see? It gives me tuple. To see the object I have assigned to tuple, I just print tuple without the type. So this gives me everything. Okay. Then Boolean is a situation where you were making a true or a false situation. Okay. So mostly when you want to check if something is something, if the is resulting in a true, then that kind of data type is a Boolean. So I want to have my variable name called is even. If I do true, then I print the type of this variable. Let's see what it gives us. You see, it gives us bool, which is what we have here. So a bool in this case. So this is a true or false data type. It's different from me saying, okay, let me print this out and see what you get. It's even. If I print this out, it gives me true. Now, it's different from making it a string. Also, you might think if I print this out, this also gives me true, but the type of this wouldn't be a bool. Okay, if I do the type of it's even now, okay, the type now gives me a string, but I do not want a string in this situation. I could just do true. And notice that my T is in capital letter. It could be true or false. So if this is false, the type would also give me bool. Can you see? Okay, great. So the next one I want to talk about is dictionary. Dictionary is literally a key value pair. So let's say I have something like this. Students in a class. I want to get each student and their names. Dictionary is represented using curly brace. Okay, so a dictionary has a key. So the name of my first student is Tom. Tom would be representing the key, and the age of Tom is, let's say, 5. I can have another one, Bob, and represent Bob with 8. I can have something else, let's say Peter. Peter's age is 9. So a dictionary is a key and a value. They're in a pair. So this pair is separated by comma. This is a pair of information. This is a pair of information. This is a pair of information. To check the type of this student, okay, come here and do this. It gives me dict, which is the data type dictionary. Okay. Now, if I wanted to get the value of Tom, I can come here and do student, which is the variable name. Do not forget, and open a square bracket. This square bracket should not be mistaken for a list. This is just to get the value of a key in the dictionary. The key is Tom. I want to print this out. If I do Python, the type .py, can you see it gives me the value 5. If I do Bob, then it gives me the value of Bob, which is 8. If I want to print everything I've assigned to student, I could just come here, print student. If I do this, then it gives me everything I assigned to this container, the dictionary and pair, key value pair of student. Okay. So again, I'm going to reiterate everything I said. Data types of a variable. It could be string, which is just I'll put this in the comment. A string is just a combination of characters, and you're representing string using the double quote or a single quote. Then you put your string inside. You could have an integer. Integers are positive numbers or negative numbers. These numbers do not have decimal. So 9 or 8 is an integer. You could have float. A float is an integer with decimal in it. So when you have 7.0, this point has made this type a float. When you have something like 9.3, this is make this a float because of the decimal in it. You could have a list. Remember, a list is represented with what? Square bracket. Okay, square bracket and comma separated object. 6, 7. A list could take string, allow, location, thereabout. A tuple is like a list, but with bracket. Do not forget, a tuple can also take different thing. Papa, mama. A tuple has the bracket in it. Then we have the bool. The bool only has 2 values, true or false. Then the last one, we have the date. The date is having a curly brace, a key, and a value. Okay, it's not every time our key has to be string. Sometimes our key could just be integers. It could be 1, the value of 1, comma separated. The next key is 2, and this. In subsequent videos, I'll be talking about the reason why we need to represent data this way, and the applications and where they actually come into our use. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Ó dàbọ̀. Kí n tiẹ̀ tó sọ ó dàbọ̀, mo lérò pé ẹ gbádùn section yìí. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ tẹ́ bá like ẹ̀, nǹkan tẹ́ rí, ẹ bá mi subscribe kẹ́ ẹ bá mi like. Ẹ ṣé gan. Màá rí yín ní next video. Ó dàbọ̀.